In this episode, we launch Wishful Thinking, visit our friends on their traditional style ketch, and set sail across the Cyclades, dodging storms along the way. Our launch day, the 9th of March, had finally come around after nearly a month of hard work in the boatyard. We were nervous because we'd done lots of work below the waterline, which would all be put to the test. We'd found a leak when we launched last year and definitely didn't want this happening again. Wishful Thinking was looking great though, and we were excited to set sail. Ryan painted anti-foul over the patches where the boat had sat on the stand. The boatyard workers were impatient though, and decided they'd move things along by driving the crane away while Ryan was still under it. It was a pretty windy day, which was going to make it a bit tricky to get out of the slip unscathed. Once Wishful Thinking was lowered into the water, we jumped aboard, started the engine and checked for leaks. We didn't film this part because the pressure was on. Luckily, the launch went smoothly and we anchored in a bay near the boatyard.
It's quite a stressful experience to go through, launching your boat, especially last year after we had a leak and we had to get pulled back out again. So all the work that you've done leading up to today, like the month that we've spent doing all that work, especially under the waterline stuff, now it's all being tested, and so we've just gone round and been checking everything. Make sure there's no leaks in any of the plumbing or anything. The engine went really well, and they put us in facing the boatyard, so when we left we had to reverse out, but the guys stuck around and stayed on the lines to help us get out, because it is blowing quite hard today. The little wind speed indicator on top of the mast is stuck. I won't be able to do it today because it's too windy, but eventually I'll have to get up there and fix that. So the only water that we had coming into the boat was the stuffing box that we had the stuffing replaced and all greased up by one of the technicians at the boatyard, and that was dripping probably every second. There was a drip, so I've just tightened that up now and that's stopped and it's dripping a lot less often. So we'll just keep an eye on that, something we're going to have to tune in. We had a great experience working on the boat in Leros. Anything we needed we could basically find it in town. Workers in the boatyard, I wasn't too impressed how they sort of operate with their procedures. Like, they actually lifted our boat up on the stand just using the sort of jack legs of the trailer instead of actually putting us properly in the cradle of the trailer and moving us out. You know, your last chance to paint the patches on your boat and they're rushing you up and stuff. But these guys were like, they lowered us in the water, and as soon as we were lowered and secured with the ropes, they were taking the slings off. Hadn't even started the engine yet. And then instead of disconnecting the slings and pulling them out one side of the boat, they decided that they just lower them and just move the crane and take them out, which, you know, it just risks catching something on our boat anyway. Now the kettle's boiling and it's a cup of tea time.
We've actually got some friends in the anchorage as well on 2 different boats that we met. One couple we met, they were wandering through the boatyard and we've been cat sitting for them. And another couple we met at the Chandlery, so they're both anchored here and they're going to come over tonight for dinner and drinks, so that'll be really nice. And then tomorrow our plan is to sail to Astipalea, which is 8 hours away, because we've kind of got a weather window to do that, and if we don't take this one it'll be a little while before we've got another one, so that's not ideal because we'll probably be pretty tired, but we kind of need to get going to the Ionian so we can spend a bit of time over there while we've still got Schengen time left. Our friends Tamara and Otto were heading into town to collect some post. Their cat Chicho always goes ashore with them and hangs out on the beach until they get back.
Hey, you're
Chicho's little ears. Hello. What are you up to? You want to come on?
Yeah, we wanted to ask you if you wanted to come along.
Oh yeah, we want to go over it?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Cool. I don't think we're sinking, so
Okay, good.
leave. What, you got a package?
Yeah, we got batteries.
Yeah, nice one.
Oh,
Chicho's sinking. We'll come
Maybe
with
we
you now?
should just drop the batteries. I think it's easier.
okay. We'll drop
then
the
come back.
batteries and pick you up.
Okay.
Sounds good.
See you in a bit. Chicho!
And we leave the cat.
Yeah.
Now you got a new captain.
Chicho was worried he'd been left behind, but they soon came back to collect us all in their dinghy. was so cool to look around their traditional style gaff-rigged ketch. When they bought the boat, the mast was broken and it had been run aground with major damage done to the hull. They'd spent a year in a boatyard in Greece doing all the repair work themselves. A pretty amazing effort. And now live aboard the boat full time.
The floor might be a bit oily.
Yeah, okay, I'll just have a look. Do you have much oil leaks with it or?
Occasionally we tend to flood the engine room, so then the oil which is in the bilge is everywhere. We had it like when we bought the boat it was flooded, and then on our sail to Italy.
Like when we sailed to Italy we had so, like the water, it was like coming in, like because we were on the side.
Ah, yes, yeah. We loved the classic look of the deck and hull, and the inside didn't disappoint either. We had such a great night with our friends that we forgot to film anything. It was sad to leave them behind in the anchorage, but we needed to get going to make the most of the weather. So it was meant to be 15 knots of wind blowing in a favourable direction from the north today, and it's ended up being more like 5 to 10 knots. So we've got the mainsail up and we're motor sailing, which is not ideal because it's an 8-hour trip, but we also don't want to get there really late because there's quite a narrow entrance. But hopefully we'll get there by 3 o'clock and the wind is starting to pick up a little bit, so hopefully we'll be able to sail the rest of the way. And we ended up having our friends over last night, Otto and Tamara and Phil and Sarah, and had a really great time, but thankfully didn't drink too much, so we're not feeling too hungover today because that would have been pretty brutal because it's still pretty rolly out here because there was a lot of wind last night. As you can see as well, it's pretty cold, so it's maybe like 15 degrees here, which is not too bad, but when you're out in the wind sailing it's pretty cold. So we've had to dust off the wet weather gear so we can stay warm. The sea's pretty cold too, so when we pulled out last year it was 24 degrees in the water, and our temperature gauge is saying about like 12 or 13 degrees, which is pretty cold, like colder than it is in Tassie. Luckily the wind did pick up and we were able to sail the rest of the way. After a 9-hour sail, we were excited to arrive to Vathy Bay on Astipalea, one of our favourite anchorages from last year. It's a beautiful spot and has great shelter as the bay can only be accessed via a narrow channel. We were the only boat there and spent the afternoon relaxing before watching the sunset. The next morning the bay was like glass. The forecast wind was favourable though, so we set sail to Schinousa.
Got mare's tails in the clouds, which means the wind's just going to start picking up. We're at the front of a low pressure system. It's going to be coming through. We've got about 24 hours before it hits us. So the saying goes, mackerel skies and mare's tails, time to reef in the sails.
We arrived to the anchorage after an 8-hour sail. Unfortunately, the wind was blowing over the hill and the swell was wrapping in. It would do for the night though, and we'd leave for Paros the next morning. It was a bit breezy in the anchorage at Paros as the wind was strong outside. Luckily there was no swell though, and we could anchor wherever we wanted as there were no other boats. We'd explored the island last year, so we spent the next couple of days relaxing on the boat after our big days of sailing. We set off for Despotiko Bay south of Antiparos. As we left Paros, we saw an unforecasted storm on the horizon. We didn't like the look of it, but it seemed to be heading away from us, so we continued on. As we got closer, we saw that there was actually a water spout between the clouds and the sea. These can form into tornadoes, and there'd been tornadoes in other parts of Greece recently. It still looked to be heading away from us though, so we kept going and made it into beautiful Despotiko Bay. On Despotiko Island is the Sanctuary of Apollo, an archaeological site dating back to the 6th century BC. We dinghied in to check it out. Unfortunately, we set the neighbours' dogs off, which detracted from the serenity a bit. This place is usually packed in summer though, so it was pretty cool to be here alone. We hadn't seen another sailboat for our entire trip across the Cyclades so far. It was amazing to have these stunning places all to ourselves, and definitely worth braving the cold for. Our next stop was Atipalea on Sifnos, another beautiful sheltered anchorage. The beach was deserted, except for a few cats. We came across a local farmer who was moving his sheep up the beach. We spent the next couple of days swimming, paddleboarding and enjoying the beautiful bay, as the weather was just starting to warm up. Next time, we explore Milos and have a hectic sail across to Kythera before rounding the Peloponnese.